So imagine the exact house you want to live in 5 years from now.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right, so picture the neighborhood, the square footage, maybe even like the specific car sitting in the driveway.
Got it. The whole dream setup.
Yeah, exactly. Now imagine you actually get all of it, but then a philosopher taps you on the shoulder and tells you that because you wanted it so badly, that house is actually a mousetrap, and it will ultimately destroy you.
Wow. That is uh that is a pretty jarring image.
It really is. Because, when we think about optimizing our future, we almost always think about the grind.
Oh, totally. The hustle culture.
Right. We think about networking, putting in grueling hours, making this like ruthless 5 year plan. But what if the actual blueprint for your future environment has absolutely nothing to do with external effort?
Right. What if it relies entirely on the internal contents of your consciousness?
Exactly. It completely upends the accepted formula for success.
It really does. I mean,
Yeah.
we all kind of operate under this assumption that if we arrange the external world perfectly, if we just secure the right salary or get the optimal living
That's
situation,
the safest investments.
right, then our internal world will finally feel peaceful. But the premise we are exploring today suggests we have that entire mechanism backward.
We do.
The external world is not the cause of our peace.
Yeah.
It's strictly a lagging indicator of it.
So today's deep dive is centered around a fascinating, highly philosophical, and heavily spiritual essay. It's titled Future Living Environments Are Created by the Contents of One's Consciousness.
Quite a title.
Yeah, very literal. It was written by Shuifeng on October 7th, 2024, and it was translated and edited by Kinyu. And our goal here today is to really dissect this text.
We want to examine Schweffing's claim that our reality is quite literally shaped by our imagination.
Right. And we also want to look at the incredibly specific spiritual prerequisites that the author says are mechanically necessary to actually manifest a beautiful future.
And of course, the psychological traps that sabotage almost everyone who tries to do this.
Definitely. But before we get into the weeds, just a quick framing note for you listening.
Yeah, good idea.
This text relies pretty heavily on concepts like past lives, karma, and heaven, and we are acting purely as your guides to the text itself today.
Right. We aren't here to endorse a specific spiritual worldview or, validate the theology.
Or weigh in on the metaphysics, yeah. We just want to understand the logic impartially. We want to look at the internal physics and the psychological framework behind Shuifeng's arguments.
Because honestly, whether you take these concepts as literal descriptions of the universe or just as profound psychological metaphors for how human beings construct their reality.
The architecture of his argument is just a massive challenge to how we live our daily lives.
It really is.
So the core argument here is incredibly bold. He says the future is shaped by imagination, not hustle.
Right.
And to illustrate this, Shuishing points to a childhood memory. He describes being a kid and just frequently gazing at the sunset.
Yeah, he would watch the sunset in the west.
All right. And he had this overwhelming, deeply rooted feeling that the place where the sun touched the horizon was unimaginably beautiful.
The text actually says the west was a place that deeply captivated his heart and soul.
Yeah. But notice what is missing from that memory.
What do you mean?
Well, there is no strategic planning, right? There is no desire for acquisition.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It is pure, unadulterated aesthetic appreciation.
Exactly. He is experiencing this profound feeling of beauty without trying to, extract any worldly value from it.
Which is what makes the payoff 30 years later so wide.
Right, because 3 decades after those sunset daydreams, Suefeng essentially found himself living inside that exact feeling.
He moved far from home, specifically toward the setting sun, the west, and he stayed there for 16 years.
And the text is so incredibly specific about this phase of his life. He details living in a massive villa. He swam year-round in a private pool.
He had 2 large dogs playing in the yards, right?
Yeah, and he even specifies employing 2 housekeepers.
Oh, right. One was solely for tending to a lush, bird-filled garden outdoors.
And the other managed all the indoor chores, like laundry and dishwashing.
The level of detail there really serves a specific purpose in his argument, I think.
How so?
Well, he's trying to show the absolute precision with which an internal state can map onto physical reality. The environment was curated for absolute tranquility.
See, I am struggling with this part of the text, though.
Really? Why?
Because when I hear someone claim they vividly imagined a luxurious lifestyle, with private pools and full-time housekeepers, and then the universe just handed it to them.
Your cynical alarm bells start ringing.
Loudly. It sounds exactly like modern vision board culture. It sounds like someone rebranding The Secret for social media.
I get that.
I mean, is the author genuinely arguing that if you just picture a mansion hard enough, a mansion materializes?
Well, that is the most common misinterpretation of this kind of philosophy. But the text actually guards against that, if you look closely at the mechanics.
Okay, lay it on me.
For Xuefeng, this is not a transactional process.
Yeah.
It is not about wishing for things.
But he got things. Pool, housekeepers.
He did, but the childhood imagination wasn't focused on acquiring real estate or employing staff. It was entirely focused on the profound feeling of beauty associated with the sunset.
So the universe didn't hear, I want a pool, and deliver a pool.
No, exactly. In this framework, the universe doesn't respond to requests for objects. It responds to energetic resonance.
Resonance. Okay.
Right. The pure, completely ungreedy appreciation for beauty that he cultivated in his childhood eventually took physical form.
So the villa and the garden and the housekeepers were simply the physical containers that the universe provided.
Yes, because they perfectly matched his internal baseline of tranquility.
Ah, okay.
If he'd been staring at the sunset thinking, I hope I get rich enough to hire someone to do my laundry.
Then the energetic frequency would have been polluted by greed and anxiety.
Exactly.
Okay, if we accept that premise, that pure resonance creates reality, then why is everyone who appreciates a good sunset not living in a villa?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. I know plenty of people who genuinely love nature. They have deep aesthetic appreciation, but they are still struggling to pay rent on a tiny apartment with a broken dishwasher.
Yeah, the real world is messy.
So if it is just about resonance, why the disconnect?
Well, the author's current living situation actually holds the answer to that exact disconnect because it highlights the razor-thin line between true imagination and disguised human anxiety.
Let's look at his current setup then, because he says his life is even more peaceful now, right?
Yeah, he moves.
The text describes a 3-story house backed by a vast primeval forest facing the broad expanse of Anaheim Lake.
That sounds gorgeous.
He stands on a massive 30-square-meter balcony looking at snowy mountain peaks. He watches fish in the shallows and wild ducks playing.
And he claims every single element. The ducks, the ripples on the lake, the snow was drafted in his consciousness before it existed in his reality.
Which is wild. And then the text poses a direct question. Can anyone fulfill their wishes simply by imagining them?
And Xuefeng says yes, absolutely.
But the caveat is monumental.
It is. It entirely depends on the raw material of your vision. What are you actually envisioning when you imagine your future?
Right, because he lists a bunch of very common goals. He asks if you are imagining accumulating more wealth, or becoming a high-ranking official,
Bringing honor to your family.
becoming famous, overpowering others, avenging wrongs, or leaping across social classes.
And if your imagination is focused on any of those things, your manifestation will fail. Or at least it will fail to bring you a beautiful environment.
And this is where I want to push back again.
Go for it.
Why are universally human goals framed as incorrect or ineffective here?
What do you mean?
Well, wanting to leap across social classes so your kids don't have to struggle,
Yeah.
or wanting to gain a little bit of status so you feel secure in your career, these aren't evil desires.
No, they're incredibly normal.
Right. So why does Xuefeng say they actively block a beautiful future?
Because if you analyze the psychological root of those desires, they are entirely reactive.
Reactive.
Yes. They are not visions of pure beauty. They are reactions to worldly trauma and stress.
Oh, I think I see.
When you imagine leaping across social classes, your foundational premise is a feeling of lack. You are imagining an escape from poverty or obscurity.
So your consciousness is firmly anchored in the existence of the struggle itself.
Exactly.
You are vibrating at the frequency of the problem.
Yes. You cannot build a peaceful environment using the blueprints of anxiety.
Wow, that is a massive aha moment for anyone caught up in modern hustle culture.
It really exposes the flaw in how we motivate ourselves.
Think about someone who is, applying for jobs because they hate their boss.
Right. People do that all the time.
They are using anger and resentment as the fuel to imagine a better future. But Xuefeng's philosophy argues that the universe is just an energetic mirror.
Exactly. So if your fuel is anger, the universe will simply reflect an environment that perfectly matches that anger, no matter how much the new job pays.
That makes a lot of sense. If your vision of the future requires you to be above someone else, or finally respected by people who doubted you,
Your consciousness is still entangled in a web of worldly competition and ego.
You aren't imagining peace. You are imagining victory in a war.
And an environment built for Victor is still a battlefield. The author draws a hard line between creating a future of tranquility versus a future rooted in comparison.
But stripping all those ego-driven desires away is incredibly difficult.
Okay. It's nearly impossible for most of us.
I mean, if I sit down right now and try to just imagine pure, unattached tranquility, my brain immediately interrupts with, okay, but how are we paying the mortgage on this tranquil forest house?
Right, practicalities crash the party. And Sufeng readily acknowledges this difficulty. He explicitly asks if the reader possesses the patience and peace of mind to hold that vision.
Noting that almost no one does.
Right. And to explain why our brains constantly self-sabotage our imagination, he introduces two specific cosmic blockers.
The first reason people fail to imagine a beautiful future, according to the text, is a lack of blessings or divine destiny.
Which is an interesting way to phrase it.
Yeah, he specifically attributes this to not accumulating good karma in past lives. The idea is that if the capacity for true beauty wasn't seated in your consciousness during previous existences,
You simply lack the internal hardware to conjure it in this life.
exactly. It introduces the concept of a continuous soul carrying a ledger across lifetimes.
And the second reason is deeply tied to that ledger, too.
Right, he calls it a lack of giving and dedication, which violates something he terms the law of balancing positive and negative energies.
The text argues that this imbalance physically prevents the human mind from imagining beauty,
And this is where we have to look at the mechanics of Shu Feng's universe.
because he does not view reality as a chaotic void where random things happen to random people.
Not at all. He views it as a perfectly balanced, mathematically precise system of energetic accounting.
So, to fix this, the author says you have to cultivate a soul garden. You need purity, simplicity, and kindness.
This internal garden has to be meticulously weeded of harmful thoughts, right?
Right.
And filled only with fragrant flowers.
Yes. You must build up treasures stored in heaven because every single external environment is perfectly matched to the internal state of consciousness.
The outer world is incapable of lying about the inner world.
Exactly. If beauty is absent in your environment, it is because it is absent in your consciousness.
Okay, let me try out an analogy here because I really want to understand the mechanics of this energy law.
I love a good analogy. Go for it.
I used to think of this stuff like a computer running software, but I don't think that fits Xu Feng's model. It feels more like acoustics.
Acoustics. How so?
Imagine your consciousness as a radio receiver. You are desperately trying to tune the dial to a beautiful, clear, classical music station that's the beautiful future environment.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the dial is permanently jammed on a frequency of heavy metal static. The static is the anxiety, the resentment, the weeds in the soul garden.
That is a much better way to visualize it.
Yeah.
The radio can only play the frequency it is tuned to receive.
Right. But how does a lack of giving that second blocker you mentioned actually jam the dial? Like, how does a failure to be dedicated actively stop my brain from imagining a lake house?
Well, go back to the idea of the energetic ledger.
Okay.
In this framework, imagination isn't just daydreaming. It is the highest form of active creation in the universe.
So it takes energy?
A lot of it. Creating reality requires an immense amount of power. That power, that energetic currency, is generated exclusively through positive output.
Things like giving, dedication, selflessness, kindness.
Exactly. If you have spent your life only taking, consuming, or worrying about your own survival, your energetic bank account is overdrawn.
You literally lack the energetic bandwidth to power the radio receiver.
Yes. You don't have the currency required to tune into the higher frequencies of peace and beauty. Your imagination is mechanically constrained to the lowest, most survival-driven levels of thought, because that is all you can afford.
Wow, that is profound.
It reframes everything.
It really does. If you haven't paid into the system through kindness and giving, your imagination simply doesn't have the juice to reach the higher frequencies.
And this completely reorients how we should think about goal setting.
Yeah, because if our external circumstances are just the lagging reflection of our internal energetic ledger, then chasing external achievements directly isn't just inefficient.
According to the author, it is actively dangerous.
Which brings us to the most striking metaphor in the entire essay, where Shofeng warns us about the lethal nature of our standard goals.
Right, he looks at the things society tells us to chase: wealth, power, fame, status, and he compares them directly to bait.
He says wealth and status are like bait on a mousetrap that lures a mouse, or bait on a hook that entices a fish.
The fish thinks it is getting a free meal and ends up on a dinner plate.
And the mouse thinks it has secured its future, and the trap snaps.
It is a brutal assessment of human ambition.
It really is.
You think you are securing your safety by chasing that promotion or that larger bank account, but you are actually stepping onto a trap that will crush your spiritual freedom.
Okay, I am sorry, but I have to call a massive timeout here.
Oh, that's wrong.
There is a glaring contradiction in the text, and it's kind of driving me crazy.
Okay, let's hear it.
How can Shufeng warn us that wealth and status are literal mousetraps when he spent the entire first half of the essay bragging about living in a massive villa
The private pool.
and employing 2 full-time housekeepers? Isn't he just a mouse who got to eat the cheese and is now lecturing the rest of us about the trap?
That is a very fair question.
I mean, how does his philosophy survive that hypocrisy?
It is honestly the most critical tension in the text, and resolving it is key to understanding everything we've discussed so far.
Okay, fix it for me.
The difference between the mousetrap and the villa lies entirely in the direction of the pursuit.
What do you mean by direction?
Think about the mouse. The mouse sees the cheese, fixates on the cheese, and moves toward the cheese to consume it. The cheese is the target.
Right.
When you chase money to feel secure or status to feel important, your ego is taking the bait. You are pursuing the object.
Okay, I follow you.
And when you get it, you become trapped by the maintenance of it. You are terrified of losing the wealth. You constantly compare your status to others. Your consciousness is trapped in the mechanism of keeping the cheese.
Right, the old saying, the things you own end up owning you.
Exactly.
Mm.
But for Shuifeng, the villa, the private pool, the lake house, those were never the targets.
They weren't.
No, he didn't set out to acquire wealth. He set out to cultivate his internal soul garden.
Ah, going back to the sunset.
Right. He sat as a child and felt pure aesthetic appreciation for a sunset. The luxurious environments were merely the physical byproducts of his internal state. They were the universe's reflection of his inner peace.
So because he didn't pursue them, he wasn't attached to them.
Exactly. When an environment arises naturally as a reflection of a pure, unattached consciousness, there is no trap.
I see.
If the villa burned to the ground tomorrow, the mouse would be devastated because it lost its cheese. But Shufeng implies he would not suffer, because the true treasure was always the inner garden, not the physical house.
Because the house was just a mirror?
Yes. And you don't cry over a broken mirror if the thing it was reflecting is still perfectly intact.
Okay, that distinction changes everything. It leads beautifully into the ultimate thought experiment that Shufeng uses to close out his argument.
It's a heavy one.
It is. He asks the reader to imagine that tomorrow is your absolute last day on life's journey. Your time is up.
And he states a brutal, unavoidable truth.
That not a single worldly possession will cross that threshold with you. Your bank account, your resume, your real estate portfolio, the opinions of your peers, all of it stays behind.
Only the contents of your consciousness will accompany you.
Whatever you consider most precious in your mind right now is the only luggage you get to pack.
And he lays out the consequences very clearly.
Which are?
Well, if the treasures you hold in your mind lie in heaven, meaning qualities like purity, kindness, and spiritual beauty, then you will go to heaven.
But if your treasures lie in this world?
If your mind is entirely occupied by your stock portfolio, your social standing, or your resentments, then you will inevitably return here. You are anchored to the material plane by the sheer weight of your own attachments.
It functions as the ultimate decluttering exercise for the mind.
It really does.
I mean, if you look at the things taking up the most mental real estate for you today, the anxieties about an upcoming meeting, the frustration at a neighbor, the ambition for a new car, are those the items you actually want to pack for your final journey?
It exposes how much daily energy we waste on things that have absolutely zero cosmic value.
It forces a severe audit of your internal life. Every time you lose your temper in traffic or sacrifice your peace of mind to climb a corporate ladder, you are planting toxic weeds in the only garden you get to take with you.
Yeah. To bring this all together, Xufeng's essay forces us to confront a terrifying level of personal responsibility.
It really takes away our excuses, doesn't it?
It does. Our future living environments are perfectly mathematically matched to our internal consciousness.
Imagination does shape reality, but it requires a foundation of purity, an energetic ledger of giving, and a strict refusal to take worldly bait.
You simply cannot harbor a chaotic, greedy, anxious mind and expect the universe to hand you a peaceful reality.
The outside will always mirror the inside.
You cannot cheat the energetic accounting system.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final, haunting idea drawn from the very end of the text.
It's a pretty severe warning from Zufang about what happens if you fail to cultivate this internal garden.
He states that if there is no wisdom and beauty within your consciousness, no amount of effort can envision heavenly scenes.
It is mechanically impossible for your mind to go there.
Instead, your consciousness will only be able to conjure scenes from the messy, stressful human world.
But he takes it one step further.
He does.
He warns that if your consciousness is truly devoid of higher spiritual qualities, degenerating entirely into survival instincts and base desires, you might only be able to conjure scenes from the animal or plant worlds.
So, based on the unfiltered contents of your consciousness today, your passing thoughts, your secret stresses, your deepest desires, what kind of world are you actually building for yourself next? Are you drafting the blueprint for a tranquil lake house, or are you unwittingly building a mousetrap?